Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Silent Sales Machine Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Smith, and I cannot believe that I'm saying those words. I'm very honored to be here. Jim asked me to be a guest host on the podcast for some episodes here coming up in the future. So extremely honored to be here. Just as a quick side note, just so I can enjoy the moment, I remember 4 or 5 years ago listening to Jim and going through all the trainings and stuff and just imagining what it'd be like to be on the podcast and talking to him. And it's been an amazing journey over the last year to be able to work with Jim and, create content and course, the Replens course together. And so I'm extremely honored to be here. But what's an even bigger honor is for me to be able to talk to Maria Hinton. She is somebody that has taken extreme action in the Replens course. And we've been seeing a lot of success lately. But Maria has been a huge driving factor in pushing that success and in making sure other people are inspired by the things that she's doing and she's growing with that course. And so for anybody that's interested in looking into Replens, we talk a lot about that with Maria and her business model and what she's done. Really over the last 30 to 45 days, she's gone from $0 in Replens to now she said she's doing around $13,000 a month in Replens, and it's in Canada. So I get a ton of questions from people trying to figure out if the replenishable strategy will work for them. And we talk about that again in the podcast, but a lot of people ask if it'll work for them in Canada or internationally. And there are a ton of people that are making this work. And Maria is one of those people. So she's extremely inspiring. She's very, very good at explaining the concepts. And you can tell that within the next year, she's going to be hitting all the goals that she talks about here in the podcast. So again, I'm extremely honored to be able to host this and hopefully some future episodes. And it's an amazing thing to be able to talk to Maria about her success using the replenishable course. So thank you everybody for being here. Let's go ahead and jump into the episode with Maria. Hey, Maria, welcome to the Silent Sales Machine podcast. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, super excited to talk to you. You've been posting quite a bit actually in the Replens Facebook group. And so I'm really excited to talk to you. It's always great to have activity in there and see people having success with that concept. So I guess kind of give us a little bit of a background of your business and how you got started in Amazon and where you are now.
Okay. So I actually only started selling on Amazon's platform, I would say, for the last 2 years. I started off with books specifically. Okay. But prior to this, for the last 7 years, I was running my own coaching business. And I had a lot of service-based clients. And, my background was really kind of in helping them, launch courses, set up funnels, run Facebook ads, all that kind of stuff. And I did it for a long time. And what I was starting to realize was that I was kind of building someone else's business and like my clients were surpassing me, which was like, I'm happy for them. But at the same time, I was like, okay, this is not working for me. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it wasn't working for me was even though I was earning incredible income, more than I ever could have imagined for myself, and also being able to travel and kind of meet a lot of people. The model itself, the one-to-one coaching, was very difficult because if I wasn't available, if I wasn't on, I wasn't making money, right? Yeah. And so it was very challenging. And I have children, and so I found the life draining out of me slowly. I had a friend of mine who just said, hey, you know what? I bought Jim Cockrum's pack course. And so I was like, okay, let me check it out. And that's kind of where it all started. So I started, like I said, with books because it was a little bit, to be honest with you, I wasn't sure if it was legit or not. Prior to looking at the pack course, I had a bunch of little Shopify stores and I was doing drop shipping. And I really felt that model again wasn't something that just kind of aligned with, my values and making sure that from start to finish, the customer service was, tip top. There was a
Yeah.
lot of elements you couldn't control. And so I was thinking that maybe this program was going to be something similar. And I was like,
Okay.
I just don't have the energy to do this all over again.
Right.
And I want to be clear, like I experienced success. I was able to sell those Shopify stores, and
Okay.
someone else really enjoys doing drop shipping, and that's totally cool. That's great for them. But I just didn't want to invest just the same amount of energy that I had been, and it not working out for me.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it started.
Okay.
Um, and then in terms of really kind of like truly getting started in
Mhm.
terms of moving away from books, started at the beginning of this year. I would say
Oh,
around
really?
March.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just March that I started, looking into the course content a little bit more on the Pack platform,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where I discovered the Replen course that you created.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's awesome. So how long have you had Pack? And so I'm not sure if we said it. So Pack is proven Amazon course for those new listeners to the show, and it's a collection of a number of different courses. And so
Hmm.
Maria's got Pack, what we call it,
Yeah.
instead of the proven Amazon course. But so how long have you had that then?
I started with that, I want to say last year, maybe in December, so
Okay.
2019.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it was fairly
Wow.
recent. And
Yeah.
then I went through, my life kind of turned a little bit upside down. I was,
Okay.
um, in the beginning of the 2020, I was going through a separation. And so,
Oh wow.
that in itself takes a lot of
Yeah.
energy, and so I just wanted to kind of make sure that, like, the kids were okay. And
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of like my number one priority. So it just kind of sat on the shelf. And it wasn't until this year of 2020 that I started
Mm.
really looking at the material and, like being 100% committed to it. I wanted
Okay.
to
Yeah.
get rid of all that bad energy, wanted to, make sure that I was strong and I had the energy to do this. And
Yeah.
I hit the ground running.
That's awesome. How many kids do you have?
So I have two boys,
Okay.
and
Awesome.
they are, my oldest son is almost 16, and
Okay.
my younger son is 9.
Wow. So you actually posted in the Replen group a while ago that one of your sons was studying the course. Was that your
Yeah.
16-year-old?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, during the whole COVID and everything being shut down, there
Yeah.
was a significant amount of time just being wasted, like on
Yeah.
video games and TV. And I was like,
Yeah.
why don't you just learn something,
Hmm.
new, right? And so he went through the course, and it was great because he really started to question, like what it was that he wanted to do,
Yeah.
going forward with college and university. Like maybe it is a better route to go, to like work for myself and create, schedule, right?
Yeah.
So, but he just got hired with McDonald's. So now he's
Okay.
kind of going that route. And I like that because I think they have really solid training, and
Hmm.
it's going to build a lot of foundational skills for him. But yeah, he helps me once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, any, especially a company like McDonald's, they've got systems for everything, right? So he can even
Absolutely.
learn,
Yeah,
how they created
absolutely.
that. How
Yeah.
did he learn? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool. So I've seen too a lot in the group. It's been really cool to see your posts because you sent your first shipment. Was it in May? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So my
Then
first, yeah, it was May 8th.
okay, May 8th. And then you posted like a month later, you did like $8,500 or something, right?
Yeah.
In a 30-day period, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And you're in Canada too. So we
Yes.
get a lot of questions about if this is doable internationally or in Canada. So I guess talk about that experience there. What have you done over those 30 days really to grow your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I looked at my numbers just before kind of we hopped on the call, and we're
Hmm.
sitting at just over 13,500 for the
Wow.
30-day period. And so for those that are not sure if this is like a viable, real legit business, I get
Mhm.
asked this all the time. People kind of look at me sideways and weird when I explain to them what it is that I do. Um, and so I'm here to tell you that it is definitely a solid a business. And I would recommend anyone that is, even if you're just looking to bring in a little bit of extra income on the side, or maybe you want to leave your job or be home with your family, definitely, definitely, do some research and
Yeah.
keep an open mind. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And for,
Um,
I guess,
yeah,
anybody that's new, what is it specifically that you do, right? I don't want to explain it. I've explained it on other episodes. So,
yes,
because people learn differently from different people. So, can you
right.
explain what it is that the concept is for new people?
Yeah. So basically, replenishables is a little bit different from retail arbitrage. So,
Hmm.
in the beginning, when I was starting off with books, like naturally, I think you just kind of trip and fall into like retail arbitrage. You're like, oh, there's some clearance items. Let me
Right.
scan these things and see if like they're selling, right? And so
Yeah.
I did sell quite a few things.
Okay.
And that's just from me going into the store, looking at the clearance items. But I honestly, there was something inside of me that just didn't sit well at all, because I'm like,
Mm.
I'm going to be chasing this forever. Like,
Yeah.
this is crazy. Like, I don't want to have to be looking for sales constantly.
Mm.
So when I came across the replenishable program, I loved it because it's very systematic and it's sustainable over a very long period of time, as long as you keep on doing the same steps. So essentially, anything can be a replenishable. A lot
Yeah.
of people often think or ask me, is it just like grocery items? Like, no, it's everything.
Hmm.
And so basically, it's selling finding items that sell repeatedly over and over and over and over again. So
Mm.
it's not items that are a one-time deal or clearance, or
Yeah.
discontinued items. These are things that you can find in any store, essentially.
Yeah, that's a perfect overview. I couldn't have said that better myself.
Yeah.
So that's
Oh,
awesome.
thanks.
How is it that you are finding the products?
Okay, so because I have a background in business, I
Hmm.
found that I have maybe a slight advantage over somebody that's starting off. And
Hmm.
that's simply only because I used to do a lot of SEO and look at keywords, right?
Okay.
So keyword um, research and market research was something that I specialized. I'm
Okay.
like through and through a nerd. I love data. I'm very introverted, which it may not appear, but I am by myself a good
Mm.
portion of the time, geeking out on like just data.
Right.
Um, so I had a little bit of advantage. But when I went through the Replan course, I was like, "Oh, you don't even need to go in that kind of depth. It's a
Right.
very, very simple process." So essentially, I think with replens, when I was doing it before, in the course, the pack course, it was taught, to scan barcodes and kind of go through.
Hmm.
I never did that. Even from the beginning, I was always typing in the
Okay.
words because I was aware that there are a lot of listings that are going to be hidden from us
Mm.
because they're out of stock. And
Yeah.
that is kind of the key right there. So if you can understand that, um, it will keep you away from, that really, I call it some bad habits, like biting nails. Don't scan. Like whatever you can do, just
Yeah.
don't scan. If you're typing an item in, like the title of, some kind of product, if you can't find it, that's okay, then maybe scan it, maybe then go to scanning it, but
Yeah.
don't have that as like your default behavior, because you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. And in Canada, it's a little bit different in the
Yeah.
US, and like maybe we can talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll just real quickly add, I mean, whenever you're scanning something, you're essentially searching Amazon for that UPC specifically. And when buyers are out there trying to find a product, they're not typing in a UPC, right? They're typing in however they're trying to find it. So it could be
Yeah,
AIM toothpaste cinnamon, and that's the thing that they're typing in. They're not typing in the numbers 024 678,
yeah,
So that's how I visually think
yes,
about it, or try
yes.
to wrap my head around it. But so yeah, I guess so. You are in Canada, and we have a lot of people that ask if this is viable in Canada. Are you selling in Canada, or are you selling on .com from Canada?
Yeah, so replenishables, I am only selling in Canada.
Okay.
I feel like there's a huge advantage for people that are selling in Canada because there are not there are not as many sellers on the Canadian platform as there is on the US. So
Right.
I find the US side, there's a little bit more competition. There's still enough to go around for everyone. Like people are always worried, like, oh, that's never going to work. There's going to be a million sellers. Like, no. I always tell people if you are consistent with your action, you're always going to beat your competition. You're always going to
Yeah.
be that person that, casually does this once in a while, right? It's all
Mhm.
about being consistent and you're going to obviously see a lot of results. Now, the only thing that I would say that has been vastly different. So in the Replen training, you talk about kind of the Keepa charts,
Yeah.
and the Keepa tool is really valuable. Like I think it's you don't need many tools at all. Like if you have
Mhm.
a cell phone and the Keepa app, that's it. And it's
Yeah.
it's a very minimal cost. So a lot of people think
Mhm.
it's like, oh, super expensive. This is going to cost me a ton of money. It's not. It really isn't.
Mm-mm.
So those are the only tools that you need and your fingers, and you're good to go, right? So
Yeah.
but in the Keepa training, you talk about the drops, right? How many,
Yeah.
when you're looking at a replenishable item, how many drops per month does that item have? And I can't remember from the training. I want to say that like at a minimum, I think it was like 10 drops. And so you recommend a certain amount.
Yeah.
Well, in Canada, that doesn't apply at all because
Right.
I would say out of like majority of the replens that I sold last month. So all of the sales that I have had over the
Mhm.
last month, so 13,500 has come from 37 replens only.
Wow. That's
Just
incredible.
those.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's really good. I did a lot of research in
Yeah.
the beginning. Yeah, I did because I was a little bit of a chicken. I'm like, I want to make sure I'm doing this
Right.
like properly and like, is this right? But what tripped me up was the fact that I was looking at the Keepa charts and I was not seeing those drops. I was not
Okay.
seeing those 10 drops. I would come
Mhm.
across some of them randomly. But out of the 37, I just kind of did a little bit of work before our call, and it was, I think, 18 or 19 of them had only one drop per month. That's what
Wow.
Keepa is showing.
That's insane. Yeah.
Four of them have zero drops. It's
Okay.
like a 0.4, like it's not even a whole drop. Right. So,
Wow.
you kind of, and how I found those and why I made
Mm.
the choice to buy those. So, like I said, I'm pretty risk adverse and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to blow a ton of money on stuff that's not going to sell. But what I did was I looked at that specific replenishable item. And even
Mhm.
though I didn't see the drops that we're looking for, what I did was I used the Helium 10 tool.
Okay.
And I kind of just looked at the keyword search, right? To see how many times that item is being searched for per month.
Mm.
And so when I would look at that and I'm like, wow, this item's being searched, 2,000 times per month, but there's not really that much availability, if any at all, on Amazon. So then what I would do is I would go and hop on some random listing that someone created. Sometimes they were horrible, sometimes they were really good.
Yeah.
And then I would just wait to see if it would sell.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
if it started to sell well, then I just went out and created my own listing so that it was a bit better and like had, more like better pictures and, better like keywords inside of it. But
Okay.
that's basically the process that I go through and how I found
Yeah.
those first, 40 replens.
Right. So that's amazing too. And now I'm going to take a step back for people that are new. Keepa. So basically, that is an external software that you can check for consistency in pricing. Those drops that Maria keeps talking about, that's typically the sales rank is dropping. And on the US side, the .com side, many times those drops correlate to at least one sale. And it seems like in Canada, it's not capturing all of the data. And so we use Keepa to give us a good guideline for something selling well and if it's a
Mhm.
consistent price. So that's what she's talking about. In Canada, though, well, typically with
Mhm.
Keepa, it works by when sellers check a listing, that's when Keepa is capturing
Mhm.
data. And so if there aren't
Mhm.
many sellers checking a listing, it's only going to show that drop once. So that's really good piece of information for any sellers in Canada or even
Mhm.
international sellers looking to sell into Canada instead of the US. That's
Mhm.
definitely something to keep in
Yeah.
mind. So yeah, that's a really good tip there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
incredible that over the last month you've gone up to, it was 13,000 in sales, right?
Yes.
It's amazing. I know a lot of people typically ask, as much as you're comfortable sharing profit
Sure.
margins or
Yeah.
ROI, what are you sitting at with that?
So right now we're sitting at 81% ROI and
Awesome.
29% profit margin.
Wow, that's awesome. And you're
Yeah.
doing a lot of the work, right? Yourself?
I'm doing all of the work
Okay.
right now by myself.
Okay.
Just recently, in the last like 2 weeks, I've hired two VAs to
Mm,
do OA for me, so online searches. So they're looking for product for me.
okay.
And, I create like a small little video training. It's super because the process is so easy. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't require a lot of time. And then we'll sit on like a Zoom call and I'll actually do it live with them so that
Okay.
they kind of get a good understanding of what it is that they're looking for.
Mhm.
One of the tips that I would definitely give people is that yes, OA for people who can't get out is great.
Mm.
Or if you're very introverted like me and you don't, like crowds and just being around a ton of people, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
However, um, there are really some amazing replens and depending on what demographic or what location you are in, for example, Walmart,
Mhm.
you're going to find different products that cater specifically to that demographic. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I've learned. So some of the best sellers that I have are not available in the Walmart that is close to my house, but I drive 15 minutes away and
Mhm.
it's like a completely different world like that I've stepped in, right? Like some of the
Yeah.
products I come across, I'm like, whoa, like this is crazy.
Yeah.
The international, I always tell people like if you're ungated in food, like people are like, don't tell your secrets. I have an abundance mindset. There's plenty to go around. Take
Yeah.
all these secrets and use them. The key is using them. And
Yeah.
so, but the international food section is crazy good. Like there's
Yeah.
so many awesome products that I've even tried, at home cooking with,
Mhm.
but that are not available on Amazon's platform. So when you think about people, kind of being cooped up here in Canada, we're just starting to kind of go back to normal.
Yeah.
But we don't know if there's going to be another wave that hits or not. But
Mhm.
what has definitely changed, regardless of what happens, is the buying habits of people and how
Yeah.
they shop. So I know a lot of people, especially the older demographic,
Mhm.
the baby boomers. I've had to teach a few how to use Amazon and how to buy things, right? And they're like,
Right.
oh, this is so easy. It just comes to your door, right?
Yeah.
Like they're never going out again, right? So
Yeah.
everything is being like delivered to their house, and
Mhm.
and that's important for them because not everyone has a vehicle, not everyone can get out, or is it safe
Mhm.
for them to get out. So those are like two things that I would just really really like suggest is getting out and try to find replens in very niche stores, things that you're
Yeah.
not going to commonly see.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people automatically think with arbitrage to go straight to Walmart. And yeah, Walmart has, niche products.
Hmm.
But, if you've got a small local store that sells niche products, that can be an excellent place to go.
Yeah.
And so that's a really great tip there because, it's easy for people to just automatically assume Walmart is where I've got to go.
Yeah.
But,
Sure.
yes, that is an awesome source, but you can have much better, more stable sources if you go
Yes.
to regional or local stores. And so
Yes.
that's an awesome tip.
Yeah. The other thing that I would suggest that has definitely made a difference for me, and
Mhm.
I think one of the reasons why I've hit, um, these numbers so quickly is because of, building relationships. So as much as I'm a hermit, like I like talking to people, like I'll go out and I'll engage with people. And it just so happened that one of, excuse me, the replens that I sell, it has a bunch of variations to it.
Okay.
So out of the 37 replens, I think it's like 14 is from the same brand, and
Oh,
it's just
wow.
a different variation. And what I was doing was I was actually ordering that product online. And
Hmm.
so it was being shipped to my house. And then 2 weeks ago, something weird happened where some like random human just come and drop, like not a courier, not FedEx, just said, "Hi, I'm here with your order." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I just started talking to him. And it just so happens that that guy is a major wholesaler in my area, and
Huh.
he orders from that company directly. And I guess they use him just kind of as a middleman
Huh.
to deliver to deliver sales within the Canadian area, because that's a
Wow.
US based company. So I started talking to him, and he just said, "I noticed that you order a lot of, these items." And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "If you order through me, I can get you a way better deal." And I was like, "What?" So what I found out was each unit that I was purchasing was 15.50 per unit. That was ordering it directly from the States, and I get it from him $11.
Wow.
So it was a huge difference.
Yeah, that's awesome.
$11 per unit. I wanted to cry of happiness. Like I literally almost hugged him. I fist bumped him instead. I was like, "This
Right.
is amazing." So like,
Yeah.
I because of that. So I I know that over the next, going forward, my
Mhm.
numbers are going to look vastly different because the bulk of my sales is coming from that one specific brand. And
Yeah.
I've just cut my costs down significantly. And
Yeah.
so I was already making really good money off of them. But it's building those relationships and having conversations with people, and not being shy and telling people what it is that you do, because sometimes I feel like a lot of people are really, there's like this like dirty little feeling that's associated with what we do. Like people are so scared of like, what's someone going to think if I have 20 of these items in my cart, right? Like most people don't care. They're not paying attention. And if they
True.
do ask, just, have a conversation. Like there's no need to lie or to make up a
Mm-mm.
story about it, because oftentimes you'll find that people are willing to help you out. And then
Mhm.
same thing, I have a connect at Costco. And so there's a specific product that sells really well, but is very difficult to find.
Okay.
And so they tell me when the shipment comes in. So you bet I'm
Wow.
there at like as soon as it opens, and I'm
Yeah.
grabbing that product.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so you've been building relationships. Your business is growing tremendously, very fast, which is awesome. You just got your own space, right, to do some prepping and shipping. So tell us a little bit about that, because you've got a kind of unorthodox space, right? It's not necessarily a leased building. So tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very different. So I was doing everything out of my apartment,
Okay.
and so I'm kind of in a transition period where my son's about to graduate high school, and I kind of wanted to keep him in the area.
Okay.
But I don't want to live here permanently. So it's not my forever area. And so we ended up just getting an apartment, lease, like renting it for a year.
Mhm.
But the space is limited. It's very tiny. And I have OCD, like I'm a super neat freak. And
Okay.
so seeing bubble wrap and boxes and just my head, I was like, no, this can't, like, I keep working because I just keep
Mhm.
looking at the numbers, and I remind myself, like, I'm super uncomfortable because this is not how my space normally is.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just temporary, right? And that I think is the biggest thing that people need to understand when they're getting into this. Everything
Mhm.
is temporary. You're going to hit roadblocks along the way. You're going to be uncomfortable. Maybe you'll outgrow your space. And and that's going to add to some frustration, but it's okay. Everything is temporary. And, this is all about growth, right? When we're expanding, it's always uncomfortable, but there's something that's really amazing on the other side of that. And so I just, earlier this week, came into the kitchen, stubbed my toe on my industrial scale, and I was like, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
And again, it's just about having conversations. I went to look at a storage unit, and one of the guys said, hey, you know what? Like 20 minutes from here, they have these workspace storage units that have hydro. You have all the power outlets, obviously, and then it has internet. And they're used as workshops. So you can't sell it out of them because it's illegal to do so, but you can use it as a prep space. And it was really, I got super lucky because those units are really hard to come by. And unfortunately, two of the units were empty because the occupants had to claim bankruptcy because of COVID.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But prior to that, they were there since 2004. So like they've been renting these units for a long time because they're super affordable. So I have a 400 square foot. It's creepy inside. It's super creepy, but we're gonna glamify it a little bit. We're gonna make it look better. Yeah. But it's perfect for what we need. And so I have had to bribe my ex-husband and say, hey, you want to help me set up some stuff? And so we have a great relationship. He was like, he's offered his assistance. Awesome. So we're going to build out the space with the intention that there are going to be other people in that space doing the prepping, not myself. And then, we'll go from there.
That's awesome. So I guess, do you plan with your business to keep growing it in Replens, or do you have different plans moving forward? What's the future for, what's coming up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely all about creating multiple revenue streams. So I'm focused obviously on the Replens right now. I still sell a lot of books, and I want to let everyone know a secret. Books can be replenishables. So just so you know, there are distributors that you can order brand new books from at a very, very low cost. I buy books anywhere from 60 cents to usually $4. But those books usually, I have a profit of like anywhere from $7 to $10 a book.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's a huge margin. And that's the reason why I think, the numbers from my sales, I didn't include like in the Replens, but my books produce a really decent return in comparison to a lot of the Replens because the cost is so low.
Right.
It's really low. Like if you can find an item for 60 cents and sell it for $24.99, it's insane, right?
That's crazy.
So like I'm definitely not giving up my books at all because it's a nice revenue stream from that. So every month I profit around $2,000 off of books.
Wow.
And my cost for it is less than $600. So it's like, it's a really good replen. It's great. So I have one VA that's sourcing books, and I have another one that's focused on specifically Walmart. That's kind of two divisions there. Yeah. So ideally, I would like to see the replen, my business grow strictly with replens at least $50,000 to $60,000 per month before I entertain adding another stream, revenue stream. And the reason being is simply just because I want to make sure that I iron out all the kinks before I hop into something else. Yeah. And so I really want to have good understanding of the whole process, make sure that I set up, standard operational procedures for that business so that anyone that I do bring in is not confused, right? It's kind of foolproof. Anyone can do it. And then that way I'll be able to kind of step away a little bit and then be creative and
absolutely
kind of the next Um, Ideally, I would love to have a prep center
Okay.
next year. I just because I, first of all, am very organized, super organized. And my background in school is in international business. And, a lot of my background is working on, finding the gaps in businesses,
Yeah.
where they're kind of leaking money. So because I have a strong background in that, I really feel like a prep center would be super easy for me.
Yeah.
Um, I last year had the opportunity just through school. Um, I had to do a placement and I ended up being at Amazon's fulfillment center, the
Okay.
largest one in North America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was the worst job I've ever had. So
Okay.
for me, when I walked in, I mean, it's super organized. Like
Mm.
everything has a process. It is like a person who's very type A, like me, it's like a dream job to have
Okay.
in
Yeah.
terms of organization, but it is back-breaking work. It is not easy.
Mm.
So I kind of had to mentally prepare myself to go into that space because I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I knew the reason why I was there was to really kind of have a good understanding of the flow, how everything flows. Because my ultimate goal, even from 2 years ago, was I would like to set up a prep center. To me,
Mm.
there's an appeal there to be able to help other sellers bring goods from the US, UK, wherever, and bring that into the Canadian market. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, there's not a lot of variety on our platform just yet. And
Hmm.
I would love to be able to facilitate that and be kind of like
Yeah.
a person for them.
That's awesome.
So, yes, that's the goal for next year.
That's awesome. So you got, I mean, it's amazing too to see just how you've gone about starting your business with the mindset of how can I scale it, right? So, and I think that's a hugely important piece for anybody looking to start their
Yes.
business. Because from personal experience, we did not do that, right? So we've been selling on Amazon since December 2015, and it took us
Wow.
3 to 4 years until we really started to systematically approach it.
Right.
And we made the mistake at our own business of trying to jump around from business model to business model. And you've got the right mindset for let's bolt this down, let's get the replens down to where we can outsource it as much as possible and then move into different avenues. So that's amazing. It's good that you're starting out that way because it'll
Yeah.
definitely reduce the headaches if you start out that way versus figuring it out the hard way. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think it kind of, you know, I don't know if it's just a Maria problem, but I think a lot of people struggle with this,
mhm,
um, that shiny object syndrome, right? Kind of
yeah.
like looking or like the fear of missing out on something. And that really is going to work against you if you're
Hmm.
in this business. So, when you do go through the training, you have to do it with the mindset that you're committed. Like this is like a relationship that you're in,
Yeah.
a replanned relationship, and this is what you're sticking to. Like you're going to be working this for 6 months, a year, whatever it is going to take you to hit the numbers that are okay for you. But you have to do it because if you're hopping from place to place, you're really not doing anything effectively. You're just
Yeah.
keeping your head above the water, and it really causes a lot of stress and unnecessary stress. So I would always recommend, I mean, 8 years ago when I built my business from ground up, I
Hmm.
bootstrapped everything, like building the website. The only thing I didn't do was like my website copy and my photos, but
Mm.
like everything. I built all the courses, and there's so much power in leveraging other people's skills. And so if you are able to utilize someone else's skills, whether you hire a shop or have someone helping you with searching for products online, the packing and the prepping, whatever it is, use it
Mhm.
because you're going to be able to scale that much quicker.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's
Don't do it by
excellent.
yourself. You
Yeah,
know,
excellent
like,
advice for sure.
yeah, don't do it by yourself. Like I made the mistake of doing that in my business. Luckily it
Mhm.
worked out for me, but I had a full-time like corporate job that I could rely on, and I was building it on the side. So it wasn't a really big thing, but I went in with the mentality like I don't need anyone. I can do this myself. There's no
Right.
fun in that. Like it's a very lonely world. and very difficult too. And it doesn't
Hmm.
need to be. I mean, if we're getting into this business, the idea is to create time freedom, right? It's to
Hmm.
be able to spend it with our loved ones, our kids, be able to travel the world, whatever it is that you want to do. You're
Yeah.
not going to be able to do that if you're like a lone ranger and just kind of doing everything yourself. It's not possible.
Absolutely. No. And for anybody too that's interested, if you want to get started with the Replens course specifically, if you go to provenamazoncourse.com/replens, it's actually 90% off right now. I think it's
Oh,
like
wow.
$29. So
That's
it's
insane.
it's super inexpensive.
Yeah.
Or if you want to jump in, head first into everything, there's the Proven Amazon course, which
Right.
includes the Replens course. So provenamazoncourse.com, and those links will be in the show notes too. So Maria, any parting words for anybody out there? You've had a ton of golden nuggets here. So anybody that's listening should probably re-listen to this, especially if you're in Canada. But
Mhm.
anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just think that there the only way to succeed in this is coming in with the right mindset. That is going to be the key to this. If you think that it's going to be hard, if you don't think it's going to be possible, you know what? You're right. It's not going to happen for you, right? But on
Right.
the flip side of that, if you come in thinking, I can do this, this is a viable source, I can get the results that I'm looking for, it will happen. I always
Yeah.
tell people, like, you just have to put that energy out there and don't be afraid to help one another. Like when I see people, guard their secrets or don't want to talk to people and share that, I always cringe inside because for me, like the first thing is why not help one another? Like why not? Also, too, we have to keep in mind that oftentimes, even when we give out great information, like your course is fantastic, but you're going to have people go through the course and not take any action.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you have all the answers and like everything laid out. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to that person to do something with it. And guess what? A lot of people do not do it. They just
Yeah.
don't, right? So, like, keep that in mind. Like, you're working against those people. It's
Hmm.
easy. I always tell people there's people that have natural talent and there's people that have work ethic. I'm a workhorse. So, I know for a fact that I will always outpace the person that has natural talent
Hmm.
because my commitment and my dedication is like most people can't keep up with it. And that's like a really strong skill that I
Yeah.
use to my advantage. I may not be like get something right away and I have to look at it a couple times and I really have a bad memory so I forget and I have to go back to certain things. But that's okay. Like my that work ethic is there and I find that I always surpass the people that naturally just kind of get things.
Yeah.
So, like don't yeah, like don't come into this with the wrong mindset, that's for sure.
Absolutely. No, that's a perfect way to, I guess, get people primed for starting their business, right? So having the right mindset, having the right work ethic, and don't be afraid to, share things with other people because then you can learn and kind of fellowship together and grow together. And actually, Maria, you've been a huge inspiration to tons of people in the Facebook group because you are, or in our Replens Facebook group specifically, because you're sharing your story, you're growing, and everybody's seeing that and getting inspired. So it's been awesome to watch. It's been a huge honor for me to be able to host this episode and talk to you about everything in your business. And
Thank
I'm
you.
excited to, either have myself interview you again in a year or Jim to
Yeah,
interview you again on the podcast and see where
for
you've come
sure.
because there's going to be a lot of exciting things ahead for you. So
Yeah, and it's all
really
because
excited.
of you guys, right? Like if you guys didn't
Thanks. Yeah.
create this content and put it out there, I wouldn't be here. And that's like something that I'm honestly truly grateful for. And I'm sure that you have people messaging you all the time telling you, how much your training and Jim's training has really kind of changed the trajectory of like their lives because I know it has for me. And I'm a single mother. So like,
Mm.
my time is very limited. I have a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. I assure you. Like if I can do it
Yeah.
and find time to do it, anyone can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely humbling too to get those messages. But Jim and I both know that any of the courses that come out here, they aren't successful unless people put in the work. And so,
Right.
as you mentioned, right? I mean, you said
Yeah.
that, alluded to that. So, it takes people putting in that work, and you've definitely done that. And it's been exciting to see things grow for you. So,
Thank you.
thanks so much for being on the Silent Sales Machine podcast, Maria. And look forward to hearing more from you soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.